Now, in your documentaries, although we're talking about all of this being a very dark space that we're in your many of your documentaries, you do shine some light on some areas where things could be improved in cities and local market gardens. And then you've also done some study into some sustainable fishing. You did that wonderful long interview with Alistair MacLeod, the fisherman, which I highly recommend people watch on Vimeo. There, I will put the link below. That's absolutely fantastic. But you do see glimmers of hope through many of these people that you've interviewed throughout your documentaries.
There are fantastic people doing fantastic work. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Mm-hmm.
However, how do you kind of get, sometimes it feels like a small group of people are just talking to each other. And my main concern is, how do you get the message that people like Alistair was espousing and working hard to get out? How do you get it to a broader audience? How do you get, because again, it doesn't have to be this way. There could be incentives to encourage small producers and small food businesses, small businesses, period.
Yeah.
But we're talking about food, to have equal footing with large supermarkets. There could be a local tax system that you pay less property taxes if you're a small business, because the small businesses keep that money in the community. There's a lot of good things, benefits that small businesses bring to it. You don't, I don't know what it's like in Toronto, but here every block, instead of having a local store with veg, has a local supermarket.
Yeah.
So the big chains are just completely dominating the landscape, Well, I mean, but that's, again, going back to the Glasgow diet, that's how people used to eat.
Right.
I mean, nobody would call it local food because food was always local, save for,
there were no other options. It was all
coffee and tea and a few other things, but your basic staples came from your area.
Yes.
And I mean, and also the other thing is, there were always supermarkets as far back as I can remember growing up in Canada, but that they lived side by side with local stores, with local food. And now you don't have that. You just have these supermarkets, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, it's kind of like, I've been to places, like I did something about the Outer Hebrides.
Yes.
And they have this huge supermarket where they don't need it. And they're islands, and yet they have to import fish.
Well,
because so and then in one of my films, someone talked about how we in Scotland, or in the UK, Scotland, I think, export broad beans, fava beans, right? Which are dried broad beans, and then we import garbanzo, chickpeas.
Yeah.
So I mean, we export one thing and we import something else that's equal in,
And what was the reasoning behind that? Like, why are we exporting so many? Is it just we don't cook with those beans in?
Well, you're not. If you're going to make hummus, you're going to get one thing, and if they eat something else there, it's the same thing. Like, Scotland exports the the best seafood
Yeah.
to Spain.
Yeah.
Spain is not as prosperous a country as the UK, right? So why is local? Because people aren't eating it, you know. So why aren't people eating their own seafood?
That's crazy. When you think about the bounty of seafood that comes from Scotland, the Scottish coastline is famous the world over for the quality of its seafood, and yet not much of it is eaten by the people of Scotland. One thing I do miss is those the longestine from Scotland. We just don't get. Well, I mean, you do get some from out on the west coast, but that's that's the other side of the country. But I can remember going to it's a village called Plockton up in the northwest, and going to the one hotel there. I can remember sitting down for dinner with my wife, and we asked for the menu. We'd been sitting there with drinks for about, I don't know, 10 minutes. And I said, "Oh, could we have a look at the menu, please?" And they said, "Oh no, Johnny's not in yet, is he?" And I was like, "Who's this John?" And then you could hear this, and a boat came up to the little pier right in front of the hotel. And it goes, "Oh, that's Johnny now." So you wouldn't know what was on the menu until the stuff was just taken in the back door of this hotel, the Plockton Hotel, and that would be reliant upon his catch entirely, right?
No, as it should be.
Yeah,
We don't need things 24 hours a day, 365 days a weekend. Alistair McLeod mentions, that certain things you don't need prawns every day of the year. It's a special thing.
Yeah.
And it should be once in a while and not everything, because if you have it all the time, then you're overfishing. You're not treating it as something special, and then you're destroying the environment. And there has to be this sense. So how do you make people aware? Because food basically comes, a long time ago, people said, well, instead of understanding that meat came from animals, they thought it would come from styrofoam packages, right? But now that it's not even that, it's like these ready meals where you don't even see the components. It's just a lasagna. The lasagna comes from the lasagna tree,
Exactly, yeah.
Or so there's really, and how do you? I mean, I do a very drop in the ocean bit with my documentaries, but each time I do something, I want people to kind of like understand that there's a connection beyond what's in their package or shopping basket.
I hear you. Now, finally, I'm going to turn the camera back around on you. I should have asked this question a little bit earlier. When did you have your epiphany that the food system as it is for us today was not quite as perfect as it was made out to be? When you were growing up, how important was food for you? And was everything cooked at home? And then as you've traveled around the world, have you kept in touch with your food throughout these years before you started making these documentaries?
So food wasn't a big thing when I was growing up in our house, just the way it was. But then when I got into my 20s, I started cooking and started getting interested, and also started realizing that all sorts of histories were there, and bit by bit. So that's when, and everything has, again, a backstory. And with every documentary, I'm, even before I started making the documentaries, food was really interesting. Where did it come from? The different influences. People move, people, migrate. They bring food with them, but it changes all the time. So all these things are, it's just such a rich and complex culture. And that's what has kept me doing documentaries, and I probably could go on for 100 years and still find new things. And again, every time I do something, I learn because, it's individuals. It's not the exact same, a culture. You talk about, say, Chinese food or Italian food, but there's regions and types and history, and there's the urban types of food and the rural types of food. There's so you have it's just and just endlessly fascinating for me. There was another part. So yeah, so basically that's what's kept me going all these years.
Now, what are you currently working on?
Right now, I'm not currently working on, and so I have a show that. So besides making the documentaries, I paint, and I'll have an exhibition on the San Juan Islands in Washington State, which is a mile away from Canada, from Vancouver Island. So I'm working on that, and there I will be doing, since I did something on the Outer Hebrides, West Coast island, the islands off the west coast of Scotland. I'll be doing the same thing about the islands, because that again used to be a self-sufficient ecosystem.
Wow.
And again, things have changed. So I shall explore and find what I find there.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. I'll put links to all of the trailers for your films, and we will catch up the next time that you're in Toronto, I hope.
Yes, which will be, so I'm looking to do a screening or screenings in May.
In May.
First half of May, I'll be through Toronto.
Excellent. I'll put up details of that when they become available. Thank you very much, Zev, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thanks.